Creatr Waves, now loading.
Ting has worked as an artist, designer, curator, and educator in America, Asia, and Europe. We talk about his bachelor's in architecture at the National Cheng Kung University in Taiwan, his master's at the US at Harvard University Graduate School of Design, and PhD in Innovation Design Engineering at London's Royal College of Art, and how these have shaped his thinking and the environments and cultures that he was exposed to, and how that has had an impact on just how he operates as a creator and curator and much more. Okay. So with you doing your education in different parts of the world, so like doing your bachelor's in Taiwan, doing your master's in the US, and your PhD in London, how did that shape your thinking, and how did those different environments and cultures shape how you operate as an individual?
I think one thing quite interesting is that you will be able to view things from a lot of different perspectives. So it's not about yes or no, or it's not binary anymore. Everything could be works pretty well in a place and doesn't work in another place. So it's broaden of your view and believe that I think the soul become much more flexible and help me to see possibility as well.
Right, because you did where did you do your bachelor's? What university?
You mean the university?
Yeah.
I did it in Cheng Kung University in Tainan.
Okay, and then your
people maybe which just adding a little bit information because
information.
people don't know about it. Basically, that's if you want to study architecture, that's probably for most people are the choice they want to go at that time.
Okay, so that was like the best place to go for like architecture.
Yeah, because we have that, and I'm just saying that simply just based on because in Taiwan at that time still have entrance exam, and when I say that's where people want to go, and simply saying if simply based on the school, that's the highest one, and not doesn't mean that which school is better, which school is not, but I'm just saying based on the school, that's the toughest school for architecture for design.
Right. Okay. So then you did your master's in the US?
Yes.
So where was that taking place?
I went to Harvard GSD, which is Graduate School of Design, for my master's degree, and then PhD at Royal College of Art.
Okay, so how was that experience at the design school at Harvard?
The US?
In the US, exactly, yeah.
It's very challenging and but very exciting. To me the key thing is that's the time I started to learn coding, animation, human and computer interaction, interactive installation. So that and also that's the time I participated at the film festival to show my work. So to me, that's really a time broaden my disciplinary and become not just thinking solely as an architect, but start to be able to immerse myself into many different disciplinaries.
Okay, so you became like more diverse during that period of time
Yes,
with your skill
yes,
set.
yes, because it's so easy to reach to many different people and course, or not, or even people not just means on campus, but a lot of different events, conference, or as I said, film festival. So that's really the time I become an interdisciplinary profession.
Okay. So how was the US culture? How did you find that coming from Taiwan going to the US? How did that, was that a cultural shock, or was that, could you transition well?
Um, I think culture. I think to me, it's okay. Probably just kind of a little joking, but I think probably more culture shock when moving from US to UK. But I think probably more culture shock when moving from US to UK.
Oh, okay.
But I think at
Okay.
that time, no, not much. I think there are reasons. For example, I I, I already been in the US in the previous summertime.
Okay.
So and yeah, and I have to say culturally, Taiwan is quite in Taiwan is very easily to expose to US culture.
Okay.
Um, I do think what I personally I like there is because I really like to collaborate with people, and then when I in my school when at GSD, it's just so easy to find people to talk new ideas, and people are very open to different kinds of collaboration. Um, Basically, it's still very encouraging you to have very wild thoughts, and just even it's crazy, even it's not practical, but trying to they always encourage you to just put into practice. It even doesn't work at the end. Um, I think I think the process still help you learn quite a lot.
Okay. Well, wow. Okay. Okay. So it's like they encourage thinking as big as possible, having crazy ideas, moonshot ideas, and even if the outcome um wasn't that great, the process of pursuing the idea was um was valuable within itself.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's very difficult to say what does really mean it doesn't work. But I'm just saying, I just to me, it's in to me that what to me that environment is very easy to to test. They encourage you. I think it's very easy to brainstorming ideas, and also the whole environment is very easy for you to testing. I mean, at this prototyping the idea. So
Right.
it's the resources that people are very happy to have a chat to you can say have a conversation, or you
Mhm.
can say have a fight, but all this is very easy for thoughts to be exchanged, and to to testing it. So the prototyping speed is very quick, and and it's just nice to see that things continue moving and always thinking what's next.
What's next?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say is like one of the main things you've, I guess, adopted from that time of being there to what you're doing now?
Technically speaking, I would say it's the coding or programming ability, because at the time I learned programming for modeling software, I learned parametric design, I even made a robot during that period of time. So and I took human computer interaction course in media lab. It's all so feel like that's really helps me to going from pure architecture design and into the digital world. Let's just say in that way, because it's got too many different components inside. Sometimes people will
it's difficult to define, right? It's difficult to define.
It's very difficult to define because even I say HCI, everyone probably have different thoughts about it. But yes, digital design world, and I think what I'm happy right now is that I'm not just touching a little bit on the digital world, but I think the good things is that I spend certain amount of time in it. So that's why I think I'm familiar with it to a level which I can when I do my creation, I can naturally combine the idea in and then make it really part of myself.
Right.
I think some people may be confusing of what I was saying, but I'm just I can maybe I elaborate a little more. Is like a lot of people will say, well, digital medium is a great tool, which you can make your own tools instead of using what's already existing like Photoshop or other things. But with coding, you can create your own tool and you can do the things you want. Yes, that's true. But from the creation perspective, digital as a medium also have its own characteristics and characters. And to me, what's interesting is that in fact when you do creation work, all those characteristics become very important. Also, very inspire me quite a lot. A lot of my work is really responding to the characteristic of digital medium. And what's interesting is that if I'm not familiar with myself with those digital medium to that level, I was still viewing it as a way to help me make things happen. But because I think I not practical. Basically, I immersed myself with the digital medium from many different perspectives and deep enough that I can, when I do my creation now, I can really focus on the characteristic because of the digital medium, because it helps my work different from other works.
Right. So is it like the virtual world and the real world? It's like the virtual world is somewhere you can like test things out and put yourself in certain scenarios, which then allows you to then go back into the real world and execute.
Yeah, that's true in some way. Yes, especially recently we have a project which haven't really revealed yet. That one is pretty like what you just mentioned, because we do quite a lot data translation or data representation. Recently, we apply that result with a physical object, so and make it become looks nice as a result. So I think
Mhm.
that's this example is pretty similar as what you were just mentioned.
Okay.
But if you're asking about the characteristic of the digital medium, I think it's probably, I think usually I think after that GSD period, one of my very core interests is become quite clear, is that because I know the characteristics of digital medium, and many people will feel like, oh, the analog is different from the digital. But to me, at that time, I'm pretty sure that what I'm interested in is what's in between the analog and the digital. So giving quick example, a lot of interaction exhibition, maybe they will do one movement and then it will activate something. So that kind of interaction, you try once, you know what's happened, probably doesn't want to do again because you already know what the result.
Yeah.
And how can I really use the, to me it's the organic quality, but to me the beautiful and the sophisticated traits of the human movement or from the analog world can work together with the digital medium, become a new result, is really what's my one of core my interests. And after that period, I know that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a interesting just subject and just area, because I just feel like it's bringing together so many things. It's bringing together like human behavior with psychology and design and visuals, just all, and it can also bring together like specific periods of time as well, which reflect culture at that time as well. So there's a lot of things that you probably have going on in your mind, and when you're working on things, you're probably thinking about all of those different things and trying to like capture it in the best way that reflects whatever your vision is or whatever your ideas are. So yeah, I think that's definitely, I didn't think about it in that way, as far as there being something in between analog and digital, because most people, well, not most people, but I guess the general consensus is there's analog and there's digital, and that's it. You either go from one to the other, and there isn't anything in between that connects the two. So
yeah, that's true. But I mean, everyone currently is living. Maybe it's too definite. I mean, most of people in their life now, they all dealing with two world, right? Even like what we are doing right now, it's a remote conference.
yeah.
So I quite like what you said. It's another time. It's really about the reflection of the current time or the moment.
Yeah.
And that's become how you use all the tool or the medium we as a creator we have, and we know to really reflect on those things and then trying to share the thought to the world.
Right. Yeah. So we traveled to Taiwan, then we went to the US. So now we're gonna go to London, because you did your PhD there, right?
Yes.
Where was that?
Yeah, I did the PhD at the Royal College of Arts.
RCA, right?
RCA, yeah.
RCA, yeah. That's actually when we first met.
Yes.
We met, this was like, I remember this was October 2014. It was at I'm not sure if it was at
I think it's at Imperial.
Imperial. Exactly. I was just about to say Imperial. It was at Imperial at an event. I can't remember what the event was. I think it was Hooked. There was a book. There was an author who wrote a book called Hooked.
Which book is that? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where we met from there. And you was just starting. Well, you was at RTA, and you told me about.
Finished that June.
Oh, okay. You think, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you was telling me about a project you was working on, which is what you're doing now. I think somewhat what you're doing now.
Yeah, somewhat.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah.
Yeah. So how was the experience at RCA?
I think the PhD study is really the PhD study itself is really different from all the previous experience, and because in my family I'm the first one doing PhD, so
wow. So it's like
I kind of go into this jungle with like a rabbit, but I think PhD really helps you to process things and organize things in a way which usually people don't do it that thoroughly, and then so it's really a thinking of mind challenge to dig out and eventually be able to argue what's the originality. So to me, what's nice is that both my supervisor were believing in practice-led research. So it was nice that I still can do creation. I still can do my practice. I still create work, design works, artworks. But the challenge is that I also need to create a theory
right.
from the practice itself, not purely from the research methods, but from the practice, the output, the process. And what's interesting is that a lot of people, if they cannot really combine the two, even you did very well individually, if you cannot combine the two, then you probably won't get the degree, because it's the requirement or the challenge is you have to combine the two.
The two.
That's the difference between practice-led research and other research people who are probably already very familiar with in the science field or in the applied science field.
Right. So what did you study? What was the topic?
I study in innovation design engineering.
Innovation design.
Yeah, innovation design engineering.
Engineering. Okay.
I know.
So it's like
yeah.
You went from going into design at Harvard, then when you went to RCA, this was like a elevation. This was like design, but from a different perspective, right? This touched into technology more.
I think the connection, in fact, it's quite smooth, because as you can see, the title has designed it, and then engineering. As I said, I did robots, all those things before, but I think mainly is the parametric design or the programming part that really played the core part in my PhD study. So I think it still fits to me, it's less it's less changing in the fields, but it's more changing from a creator to a researcher.
Okay, creator to a researcher. What is, as far as being a researcher, what are some of the core attributes?
You need to be, the key thing is you need to be very rigorous, which means that everything you say, you need to be able to evaluate it and then make it validate. So
Okay.
it's very different from I think it's very different from non-researching activity. That to me,
Oh,
that's
okay.
the part, because validation has level. I mean, yeah, validation has levels. So especially in the practice-led research. So if you want to be really critical, yeah, the second attribute is the critical. If you want to be really critical, then it's really mind challenging to be that critical. You work
Okay.
very
So
hardly
like,
on the evaluation and on creating a very accurate arguments, and
okay.
eventually also need to find a way to not prove it, to validate it, to evaluate it.
Right. Okay. So do you think being a researcher, developing as a researcher for your PhD, do you think that kind of provided a full circle moment from when you did your bachelor's in Taiwan to doing design in Harvard and then going to RCA? Was you able to then see how you were able to bring all of those skills, or all of the different expertise and information together after you completed that?
I think your question means, do I work? If I understand your question properly or correctly, I think when I graduated, I think that's interesting question. But funny thing is that when I graduated, no, and no clue about how to how to um how to put all these things together and
Yeah.
really show to work. I think one main reason is that because I did my PhD in a very short time. I finished it in 3.5 years.
3.5. So that must have
So
been intense, right? It must have been like
yes,
like
there's some reason why I really push it in that way, but it, from somewhere in some way I'm really happy that I did it. It doesn't really matter for PhD study. It really doesn't matter you did it in a short time or in a long time. It really doesn't matter. But for me, I think it's in as a mind challenging perspective. I think doing it shortly, to me, I'm quite happy with it. But on the opposite side is that I didn't have much time to really think about what I'm going to do afterwards, because in really just focus on creating my project, really finish creating the theory, did the viva, everything. So no, I didn't have time to
think about it.
What?
Getting the projects done and complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I didn't have time. But I think it's very it's very interesting question, because I think for interdisciplinary professions, they not only the developing time will take a little longer, because you need to familiar with A, and you need to know B pretty well to a level, then you'll be able to start to put them together. But I found that's what I was talking about building. I found the output itself also needs time to baking, because you're not knowing many things, and then you do need time to really explore the possibility, and also a lot of time it's about what's the gap between the already known things. But because once you found the gap, you also need to do prototyping, to do testing, a lot of things to really make yourself more clear what the result, and then you believe in it. So and also not only just creating, because you already know my practice, I also need to make the prototype to become a end result as a product or as an artwork that the audience or the general people will be able to see it, to communicate. So it's basically it's a whole process and to go to the end. So I found it's interesting that even I think I only know it's much more. I mean, of course, in the past 5 or 6 years, every year we have new outputs, and they're all doing great and great. But funny things that link back to that question, I think only recently I'm creating a map. I found to me, in fact, one thing I'm doing is one core thing we are doing is we are transforming. We get into detail. I think the audience might feel what are you talking about. But basically, only until
that's
now,
okay. That's okay. That's all right.
But only until now, I think I kind of have. There's a big area. I can put all these parts together and knowing what I'm doing, and that if you think it's okay, I can just simply mention in one down. I think what I'm doing is, I don't view it as just solely as a software. To me, it's more about, I mean, the things I create. It's not just not originally around our software, but to me now it's a workflow which we can input all kinds of. To me, I'm now calling this story because it's really not just data. It's the story, and then you can put it in, and through movement, through digital processing, through creators' decision on the parameters, and eventually we can translate our story to an output. A visual output has aesthetics and can be applied in quite wide different fields and
mediums.
Different purpose.
Yeah. So you are a lecturer as well, right?
Yes.
Where do you do that?
I'm currently a full-time professor in NCKU, in Chengkong University in Taiwan, is where I did my bachelor degree.
Okay. So I think that's such a interesting position to be in, because you're not only you're a creator with your own projects, but then you're also, as a professor, you're positioned yourself as a coach and as a leader of students as well. So how has that shaped you, just as a leader? How has that shaped you? What have you learned from just being a professor and teaching people different principles that can help them further their career pursuits?
Yeah, I mean, I also still and continually reflect on the role of being the professor, because as I said, I think it has a little different meaning in US or in UK, in Taiwan. To me, I think, and maybe put it simply, I think the first level is I want them to at least learn something after the course, which can help them to move on their career. Basically, it's help and hopefully help their living. That's the first level. So it's really about make sure that there's some useful technique they will be able to take away from the course. That's first level. Second level, I think I'm very inspired from the tutorship while I studied at RCA. So I found because I found it takes quite a lot of time to chat or to have a conversation with students or
Mhm.
with a student to really know how they think about things. And I think once you know that, then I can start to discuss with them about how to about thinking, how they processing. Because to me, what's really interesting with research is that it's not just about the subject or the content, but it's about how you approach those content. And then and in fact, if you can view things from the thinking way, in fact, it can really broaden your view of all different kinds of things, because it's not about it's not only about the content, but it's also about how it's operated and how it's being put together. So I think once started to look at things from the thinking or the method, then the world kind of expand or be able to link even more extensively. And to me, based on my personal experience, I think that's benefit me in long term the most, because compared to the skill set and other things, because now I really can continually redevelop it myself as a creator or as a thinker. So in fact, the second level, I depends on the student, but in my group, I do spend quite a lot of time to discuss and have a conversation with students, because I don't really always view me. I mean, of course, I will take the responsibility as the that I need to share things with them, or
Yeah.
give them suggestion, but I don't really view myself as an higher than them or
Right.
something.
Right.
I don't
Mhm.
view it as a hierarchical way.
Mhm.
So I spend a lot of time having conversation with them, and then after a while, when I know how they think, I help them to develop their way of thinking. That's to me, that's the second level. And then the third level is in the reason I thought about that is because in your question you use a word which to me is quite interesting. You use leading. Um, I to me the third level indeed involving leadership, and I think I think what's interesting is because in the US, my supervisor has his own studio. So what's really inspired me is the school environment or the academic environment can be really linked to the real world, the outside world.
Right.
I really like that, because it's made me feel I can communicate with wider audience, and also for me I have more content to play with. So when I did my teaching, I also applied that method. I always bring the real world projects or bring the school to the real world. And
Right.
then in that case, the leadership become very important, because it's in some perspective working as like a studio that everyone work together as a team. And with when there are many people, then the leadership to put everything together to help everyone benefit and to learn from each other, and to help to create a team spirit which all the member share and value become very important.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're in a unique position because you almost provide your students with that link to the real world almost, because you're creating things that people are consuming, and you're able to then link that back to the theories that you're teaching them and the things you're guiding them with. So you're like going from the real world, coming back and forth almost.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's a really good saying, because to me that's what makes things interesting. Because if I just focus on doing the commercial things, the even the outputs, then then um the student probably become more like the maybe say that more directly, more like a employee. But in
Right.
fact, it's because I like what you said, is that all the practice has that theory behind it. So
Hmm.
we still have that mind challenge, that thinking challenge behind it. So that's already make the whole practice very exciting. But on the other hand, I also trying to make the real world project, in fact, become a place or a situation or an event for teaching. And in order
Right.
to do that, I need to do quite a lot of reflection and find the right boundary to make them feel like I'm not. I'm just put it more extreme way saying and say some people will say, oh, you are doing you are basically exploiting students. But so I'm
Yeah.
very aware of that, and happily after this 4 or 5 years, I think the collaboration it's worked out quite well. They I think what I'm really happy is that it's a win-win, and it's a everyone become better together through all this process.
Yeah. I like what you said before about um there not being a hierarchy between you and your students. So it's almost like you have a flat structure with your students. So then it's easy for them to come to you if they need guidance, and it's easy for you to like communicate with them as well without there being an idea of, okay, I'm higher than this, I'm in a higher position than you, and so there must be um so it's hard for information to be, sent back and forth.
Yes, totally. Especially, university is a big institute, so we know how it takes time, as you said, information to move around. Sometimes it won't even start.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm trying to make it pretty flat, but at the same time, I'm also very aware that as I still have that teacher's role, so I need to give them constructive feedback rather than just. I need to help them to move on. That's
The key.
always in my mind. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's almost like they're students, right, that you're teaching, but you're also a student in general. In terms of life, you're a student as well. You're always learning, you're always seeking new information, new ideas, new experiences. So you're learning from them as well, as far as, okay, how do I be open to taking information in and applying it to whatever I need to apply it to. So there's learning on both sides,
Yes, totally, definitely. It's
Oh, yeah, exactly.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to quickly go back to London and just ask you, how was that culturally for you? Like, how did you deal with just the environment of London, going from the US, then going to London, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm, I I think what I like here is that people do think things more holistically and into quite detail. In fact, especially a lot of creation need to touch on the humans experience, which sometimes is very difficult to explain, but it's also quite essential to creation. I think here I what I learned and I quite like is how I really can um, explore and to discuss things in a many holistic way. Even feelings can try to describe it to
Yeah.
consider into the process, and rather than just throw out what's the possible way to deal with the problem, but they really take all the stakeholders' needs together and trying to see whether there's a possibility to create an output which everyone on the table will be benefit or the problem can be addressed to a certain level, which that's
Right.
that's the first part. The second part is I quite like the fluidity of the disciplinary here. That, for example, the art, the design, the craftsmanship, all these things, you can easily find a window between them, and to me that's really exciting and really creative, because it's basically like what I'm doing and I'm interested in. Always, as I mentioned, I always looking for gap or connection between or A and the C. Yeah. So
yeah. So the brand that you're building now, can you just briefly touch on what you're doing with it right now? Like what it's called, what you're doing with it, and
we currently I think it's very exciting moment. Well, I mean, it's still COVID situation around, but we still developing the pattern, and the textile direction, like scarf. We're going to launch our new t-shirt series. So all this more, that's called, to me, I don't view them as purely product, but to me, I'm viewing them as a way to communicate.
okay.
But we can still simply call them a more commercial side. That's, I think, just easier for communicate.
Yeah.
That part still continue. And what's exciting is that even pattern design, we always explore new methods. So I can say that 2022 is very exciting, because even the data or the pattern structure, we have a new innovation inside it, make it looks quite different. And of course, in the past year, maybe share a good news we just received yesterday. In fact, we won another design award gold in the US. So this year,
Congrats on that. Congrats on that.
So this year, in fact, it's the first year I just started to submit the design award, and this year we already got several ones. So it's just showing. It's showing that this trial, we feel like we are doing well, and we continue doing it. And I mean, of course, linked to the business part. We recently talked to many online platform, and some are really exciting, some are very selective, but happily we are in. And in terms of physical, we also have some exciting opportunity that we are currently exploring. That's one part. To me, what's really even more exciting is the part that I just mentioning to you is now I can view the whole thing as a flow. So that ability to be able to transform a story becomes very, very exciting to me, because I feel like, in fact, our flow can link to so much wider work. For example, the recent project that we are developing is an orchid project. So with the group, we can get the orchid DNA, or this very hidden information, and we can touch on the scent. So with our flow, we can well, because usually when people thought about orchid, they think about their shape, their color. We now be able to use our flow to really transforming those already known to a new visual output, or the unknown information to the wider audience.
Okay.
So that data or that info story reconstructing become, I think the whole parts now we can do it quite more complete now. So just showed another another quick example is for example, there's another project we are thinking is the project has a lot of war means army fighting history.
Okay. Yeah.
War culture, and then so a lot of bound sides and a lot of it's an island, so it's natural scenery is beautiful, but interesting the human history heritage there is also showing all this history. So with all those image, with all those story behind it, we also be able to transforming and this story and then help them to recreate their image or a series of output to help the subject to have a new image and to show it to the wider audience as well. So that's the second part feel quite exciting. And then the third part is not only the commercial bits, we also start to create more artwork.
Okay.
We have already done a sculpture which is quite big, that's applying our pattern and those parametric structure. Parametric
the patterns.
To form the sculpture, and already did it in an interior space, which to me it's people might say, yeah, that's sculpture, that's an artwork, and the sculpture is a part of. But to me, it's all about which medium is. Every medium has its limits and has its own characteristic. Which medium for me, I can best say the things I want to say, or the things I want to communicate with the world.
Yeah. So with the patterns that are on your products, like the scarves, how do you create those patterns?
It's put it simply. So we can input information into our system. I mean, of course, I need to curate those information. That's the key. And how I curated those information, in fact, it's really affects the result as well. And then once we put it in, I usually will just let it run first in our system and let it run and see the initial result. And then I start thinking, how I get that result, and then go back to the process, get into that process. And in the middle, I start changing different things. Sometimes it's coding, sometimes it's data structure, different things, and until the result that I am happy with. And even that result, I could multiple different results to create another new result. So to me, it's really linked back to what we were discussing about between analog and the digital, because we already see a lot of textile that has hand drawing on it, or using Illustrator doing those patterns. We saw quite a lot, and we also saw some work that purely created from the programming, from the coding, the digital art. We kind of, some people maybe call them, have a more distant feeling, or sometimes have a more shiny lighting, or those general thought concept or image on that work. I think what interesting we are doing is the reason why, from a business perspective view, I think the reason why our return rate is high, I think it's because the uniqueness created from combining the two that help us, that the result has feel like the look is not just what people have already saw before in the analog world or the digital world. That hybrid feeling, I think, make it interesting,
unique.
Yeah,
I think it's because as well, it's the way you're capturing the patterns. The patterns almost feel like it's a real life. It's like almost like from a real life scenario that has just been attached to the product, rather than it feel like the design was made was just created in a way that wasn't reflective of like with a real time. That's the word, like a real time scenario. So it feels more real. It feels like you're wearing something that is a real time scenario, a real time situation, connected to a real time situation almost.
That's a very interesting comment because the one of the main inspiration for the system we created is experimental film, and I think it's because I studied in London. That's why I was be able to expose to the experimental film practice work and the theory.
Okay.
So that time and the situation combination, indeed, I think I'm happy to. I'm happy to hear what you were saying because film is dealing with time, and then I think that time plasma architectural spatial structure always cross in I always try to make them cross in my practice, and I think that temporal that time sense probably is what you get
was referring to.
the word.
Yeah.